After the last video on SQL Nexus, we wanted to do another video to discuss the data collection scripts that come with SQL Nexus. So looking at the release 4.0 folder, inside we've got the data collector script and the SQL Nexus utility. Now the SQL Nexus utility itself is what you would use to analyze data you have captured. The data collectors will help you collect performance data about SQL Server. If we go into this folder, we've got scripts pre-configured for SQL 2005 up through SQL 2014. I'm going to be capturing a little data off of the SQL 2012 instance, so I've already extracted this out. If we go in here, what we've got and what we will be looking at is basically a slimmed down version of PSSDiag. We have a couple of the perfstats scripts. We have these XML files here. The SQL Diag XML files are all configuration files for the SQL Diag utility. These command files down here are basically batch files, and they actually start the data capture. I'm going to open one of them briefly. Now, this is a batch file, and what it's going to do is it's going to call the SQL Diag utility, which actually comes with SQL Server. You can see this located under the Program Files, Microsoft SQL Server 110 Tools folder. So it invokes that tool, it passes to it where the input config file is and where the output data should be written to. So this is pre-configured. You can basically just run this and capture data. I am going to start this up right now, and we'll see what it looks like. Pops open a couple of windows. I've actually captured data previously, and I'm telling it to overwrite that. And that is what it looks like. It's connected to my instance. We're starting Profiler, we're starting a blocking script, we're running perfmon, and all that started up successfully. So I can generate some activity in the background against that SQL Server instance, and so it'll actually be capturing some meaningful data while we're doing this test. Each of these, the XML files, like I've said before, are configuration files for the SQL Diag tool, and we will look at those in more depth in another video. I'm going to shut this down quickly. We haven't been running this very long, but I'll get to show you what is in the output folder as well. In the output folder, we have event viewer logs, the system, application, and security logs. So if you're dealing with a performance issue with SQL Server that may be impacted by problematic disk or possibly a networking issue, you can look through those logs and see if there's anything that might be relevant. In the output, we also have this SQL Diag shutdown file will contain all of the error logs for SQL Server, along with the SP configure output, some other settings, and output from a number of system tables. So there's a lot of information in this file. These three files, the perfstats files, the perfstats startup file has information on, let me open this up in Management Studio. This will have information on blocking and waits, and it's really key. It's really a key thing I use to troubleshoot performance issues on an instance of SQL. I'm generating some activity in the background, but there's not any blocking or anything that it's specifically looking for. But there's information on DMOS wait stats. It'll have information about blocking and other waits inside SQL Server, and it is a key thing to me for troubleshooting performance issues on SQL Server. The perfstats snapshot files contain information about plans that are cached on the system. The first thing we see is the top in query plan statistics, and this is returning information about plans that are cached and how much, in order of how much CPU they have utilized. And you can get information about what queries are consuming the most CPU time on your SQL Server very quickly from this. There is also information on, there is a missing indexes report here. If you're familiar with that, SQL Server keeps track of indexes that it thinks might be helpful in given cases, and this retrieves that information. Additionally, it keeps track of statistics information, or outputs statistics information for all database, and starting off with the system databases, but you can go through and find the user databases and when statistics were updated based on this output, so that can be very helpful. We also have a profiler trace, and we have a perfmon output. The performance monitor data is configured by default to get all the most useful counters, things like processor, physical disk, various processes on the system, logical disk, network information, and all the SQL Server counters. So there's a lot of information that's captured by these scripts. It comes pre-configured, so you don't have to worry about it too much. If we go back to the script folder here, I use this start SQL Diag trace 2012. This is good for general performance. There is also a detailed trace batch file, and this will capture statement level events, execution plans, and get more information, more detailed information, as the name would imply. There's also a third batch if you want to capture a trace for trying to reproduce issues or trying to replay output from a profiler. So if you need it for that ability, that would be the option you would want to invoke. I think this covers everything we were going to discuss. Hope you found this information useful. Thank you.